What really happened in that third quarter when Boston lost their lead, and that defense on Luka Doncic, chef's kiss. So much more to talk about. We had to do a bonus Locked On Celtics podcast.
Thanks to Blockbuster Brand, it's holiday season. Drop Drew in the mix, and 3 from KP. No, we not on the Knicks. Flushing competition like Al on Giannis. Juice and Big Juice, still Beantown's finest. Banner 18 going up in the rafters. Watch the C's game in Locked On after. Karalis on the breakdown, clutch like a tip from D White on the breakdown. John on the mic documenting domination. Matter pen a back bay, it's all C's nation. Rain and J's, how we started raising business, how we finished. Locked On Celtics pod, home of the winners. Peace.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I got you covered every single day, Monday through Friday, plus these bonus podcasts. It's the finals. You think one podcast is going to cover what happened in a finals game? No, we got multiple podcasts covering what happened in this finals game. So subscribe to get the best, the most comprehensive Celtics coverage available anywhere. I'm John Karalis. I used to play a long time ago. Now I'm covering the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I'm covering my second NBA Finals, so it's a lot of fun here. Coming up on today's show, we'll talk about, well, you know what? Coming up on today's show is Tom freaking Westerholm. That's what's coming up on today's show. What's up, Tom?
What's up?
Well,
it's the finals, man. You sleepy?
Sleepy boy. I'm a sleepy boy right now. Punchy even with the I got a solid 5 hours, which is a lot. And you know, it's one thing that podcasters love to talk about is our segues when we make a good one and how little sleep we get after games. That's the staples of the podcasting industry. So I'm there. Yeah. So all right, a lot to get to here, but let's just get to your thoughts. You didn't hear Tom's thoughts, and I know you have at least 2, maybe 3 on this game.
It's
too much pressure on you.
Clanging around, there's only 3 in there. There's a lot of space, so they're just kind of clanging around. Yeah, no, I think so. Obviously, that's everything. That game was everything that we expected, right? I think
everything,
literally everything, and that's such not a good sign for the Mavericks, I think, because
when we can predict it pretty much on the nose,
that's not what you want. We're not usually that prescient.
We're smart.
Yeah.
NBA nail it. 98% to a T smart. It's like what was that guy's name in the Good Place with the picture? Doug Forsett. Yeah. It's like they're just sitting there listening. All of a sudden, you and I just took some mushrooms at a party and got 98% of game 1 right, and people were like, "Wow, he's nailing that."
Just saw heaven, and we're like, "Oh no,
oh my god, single cover Luka." Oh Jesus.
It's funny, right? Because I think the Celtics had a really healthy attitude afterward, right? You got Jaylen coming into the locker room, come on, guys, don't get cute. That was one game. You hear all of them kind of saying the same thing, Tatum being look, we won game 1 in 2022. Look how that turned out. These guys have, I think, the right attitude about it. I think it's funny because I think fans might be getting slightly ahead of themselves a little bit. It's not, the series isn't over, but it's literally it's game 1.
It's game 1.
A lot of victory laps. And I think that's the thing about being a fan, right? Is I go back to this, I'm a fan of the Tottenham Hotspurs in the Premier League, and their new coach this year, Ange Postecoglou, had a quote that I've always really liked about fandom, where he's like, they got up to this hot start, right? And he's like, reporter asked him, should fans chill out a little bit? And he's like, no, that's the beauty of being a supporter. They go through enough pain. Let them enjoy this. It was it's on us to fulfill the expectations. Fans should go crazy. And I was like, I really like that. I think that's a good perspective. But I think no matter what, I think the main takeaway from last night is just all the people, without taking too much of a victory lap, every bit of analysis that I heard about why the Celtics might beat the Mavericks was stuff like matchups. I think the Celtics can beat this matchup. I think the Celtics can beat this matchup. I think they can generate this look. I think that this is going to give the Mavericks fits. I think they have a way of defending Luka Doncic that has worked against other superstars that they've defended, that one-on-one and nobody else gets anything and just make it as hard on them as you can. That's worked in the past. And we kind of anticipated all that. And all the opposite analysis that I heard of why the Mavericks were going to beat the Celtics was largely, well, I just believe in Luka and Kyrie and
right.
I don't know, I believe in this team. And it's like,
yeah,
I respect that, but that's not analysis. And if there's one thing that has been true since I started covering the league, at least, is that the playoffs are all about matchups. And this Celtics team is specifically built to be able to beat matchups on any other team. That's why they have all these defenders who can also attack off the dribble. That's why they have all these three-point shooters. They have constructed a team that is going to have a ton of matchup advantages against just about anybody. And that was true from the jump. And that's what anybody who predicted a good Celtics series said. So that's kind of my take.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Listen,
why does anybody else see this nationally?
This is going to be the line that gets me in trouble with Mavericks fans.
Let's go.
They've had Luka and Kyrie for 2 full seasons.
Yeah.
They missed the playoffs last year and they were a 50-win team this year. And that's not to be like they suck. No. But what I'm saying is, if you're just going to be like, oh, Luka and Kyrie, man, how do you beat Luka and Kyrie? But man, a lot of teams have been beating Luka and Kyrie for a long time here. They were a 5 seed. Now, granted, it's in the West and all that stuff.
Totally.
Now, they have been great. They made the NBA Finals. I'm really not trying to disrespect these guys. I'm disrespecting the mentality that goes into, if you're going to tell me, listen, I think Kyrie is going to do blah, blah, blah against these players. And if he does that, if you're telling me matchup stuff, let's talk.
Absolutely.
But if you're sitting there being like, Luka, man, he's so special, man. He's the best player in the world. He's best player on the best team. That's how you win a championship. And boom, you're like, well, I mean, is it? Because who's been the best player on the best team that's won championships? You got Jokic last season, but he didn't make it to the finals this year. So Jokic, if it's just best player, best team, a lot of other teams are going to be making it to the finals all the time. Giannis would have made it to the finals a whole hell of a lot more. You need more. And every way we sliced it, every way I looked at this was, man, Boston just has the matchups.
Yeah.
But I asked this question 10 times already, and I still don't have a good answer. Who does Luka guard? Who does Kyrie guard? Because, man, I watched that game again, and I was like, they are destroying Luka in cover. They're getting past him, and it's just they can't, because of the quality of the Celtics players who are driving past him, there's no place to help. The way the Celtics have configured their matchups, Boston, instead of what I thought was just going to be drive, draw the defense, and kick, it was drive and finish at the rim. They just had they moved they
drive and dunk on 9 people at once.
I mean, it's unbelievable. So they get Gafford, they get Lively, pull him away from the basket. Horford, Porzingis, they put they mix up the matchups. They get those guys away from the basket. They put small guys in the dunker spot so they can't help. When Jaylen dunked on the entire Mavs team, the first guy that's coming up to challenge him at the rim, when you see the uptight close-up, is Kyrie. That's your backline defense. And then Gafford comes flying in late. That right there tells you the way the Celtics have configured this, it's a late contest from the bigs rather than the big waiting there.
Yep.
All of this is to say, look, game 2 will be different. Game 2, things will change. Completely understand that teams will figure it out. But whatever Dallas figures out, I still feel like the Celtics have the answer if they really want to look for it. So, yeah, that's my biggest takeaway here is the matchups still favor Boston. I don't expect 20-point wins. I don't expect a sweep. I expect it to get a lot tougher. but Boston is the better team. They proved that they were the better team because they didn't just come out and, a couple of lucky breaks, couple of calls went their way. They went out and took this game from like as soon as Porzingis checked in.
Yeah. And like, you attack Luka, right? And like you get by him kind of at will, and that's big time. And then you also are getting by Derek Lively at will. Like anytime he was drawn out. Gafford, first play of the game, gets pump faked into the fourth row by Al Horford, and Horford gets like, that baseline dunk. Like Gafford had very little defensively for any of this perimeter stuff. And again, I like just to keep hammering this, that's exactly what we kind of thought was going to happen, that the Mavericks bigs were all of a sudden going to have to face this this isn't OKC, man. This isn't Minnesota. This is a very, very different team. And again, it's the playoffs, so it all comes down to matchups. And I don't know, is PJ Washington? And I hate doing this because the thing that it's so tempting after a game 1 win to be like, I don't know how the other team is going to adjust. But the thing that gets me about this Mavericks game is that all of this stuff was predictable. Like we saw all this coming. So then it all happened. There was very little kind of deviation from what we thought. So then what's like, it's almost like the Mavericks have to like start over again, because it's like, couldn't you have prepared for some of this stuff a little bit better? Instead, it's just like that first game gets punted, and now, or the Celtics, like to your point, right? Or the Celtics just took it. And if that's the case, all of this stuff looked pretty repeatable. So that's worrisome if you're Dallas too. There's just so much to be worried about if you're the Mavericks, I think.
So the one thing I heard, like I've heard a lot in just the short time since game 1 has ended, is, well, if you're the Mavericks, you just got to look at that third quarter when you cut that lead to 8 and you try to duplicate that. All right, no problem. Let's look at what went into that third quarter and why that lead went down to 8. Let's come back and let's do that. Today's show is brought to you by Crack Sauce, my good friends over at Crack Sauce. CRAIC. You can see it here on the YouTube page. This sauce is delicious. I just opened one up, a new one, because they have these, they come from individual farms, and I got one from the Concord farm. I use it on a breakfast burrito that I bought for this morning in a haze after no sleep. I needed a quick breakfast, and I knew that the burrito I bought from a local establishment was not going to be good enough. So I opened up a bottle of Crack Sauce and used some of that. Nice bit of heat, beautiful amount of flavor. Now I had a real breakfast. That's what this does. It's not just hot sauce. It's not just like burn your tongue hot. This is flavorful stuff. It's made by a Celtics fan locally in Lowell, Massachusetts, locally sourced, local farms, everything here in Massachusetts. So you know it's good. You know it's fresh. And if you go to Crack Sauce, CRAIC sauce.com, use the code Locked On, you're going to get 10% off your order. Locked On for 10% off your order. Father's Day is almost here. If your dad loves hot sauce and loves good flavors, great flavors, you can get one of these sampler packages. You can get bigger bottles, whatever you want. Go check it out. 10% off with the code Locked On. Get some for yourself. Get it, just bundle it all together and save some money. While you're there, check them out. They're out there in like Portsmouth, New Hampshire. They're out there in the seaport. They're out there doing stuff. So if you're around, go check them out. Taste it. Meet the people who are making it. They're very accessible. And like I said, they're Celtics fans. So talk about game 1, talk about game 2, all of that stuff, and have some fun. Crack Sauce, CRAIC sauce.com. Use the code Locked On for 10% off. All right, Tom Westerholm. The Mavericks made a big run in the third quarter, and I was like, okay, let's take a closer look at this. And okay, a couple of things struck me. First of all, the run didn't span the entirety of the third quarter. There was a short stretch where they really made a big move. So it starts at the end of the second quarter.
That's when it started. Yep.
It really started there, right? Boston goes up 29. Get a little bit lazy. Tatum has a lazy kind of outlet pass turnover. Joe Mazzulla calls a timeout. They kind of let Luka get to his right hand. He got a couple of layups that the Celtics really weren't allowing very much. It felt like they were at a point there where they felt like they were up 29. Luka turns a corner, and instead of fighting for the position, they said, we're up 29. We're not going to give him free throws to get going. Let's just back up. Let's just kind of like, I got beat. No problem. Let's just go get it on the other end. And then the Celtics just stood around.
Yep.
And this is a huge part of this. I know the Mavs are going to want to duplicate what they did. And they should, because they switched a lot. They switched everything, and they tried to bait the Celtics into stagnation and ISO hunting, and the Celtics willingly went along. They settled for nothing but jumpers. It was just Jaylen takes a three-pointer right away, no attack. A bunch of other guys are taking three-pointers. They just are it's not generating the good threes, which is a term I know you love. It was just taking threes that were mildly open, not horrible shots, but like still could have gotten better.
Correct. Yep.
And once the Celtics started attacking after that timeout with 4 and change to go, funny thing happened. The Mavs stopped hitting shots. The Celtics started getting to the rim, getting back to the line, started making hustle plays. The Jayson Tatum offensive rebound, Kristaps Porzingis cut after Lively, by the way, flew by like an out of control, ridiculous contest on the Porzingis 3. And he was already down at the other free throw line. And Tatum rebounds the miss, hustle play, good play. Porzingis cuts straight down the middle. No one's there. His guy is gone. Luka's not watching him because he's worried about Drew Holiday on the baseline. Boom, pass, dunk. Now we're cooking. The Celtics are attacking. So I'll put it to you. Third quarter, cut to 8 on a scale of 100, like 100% Dallas, 100% Boston, 50-50. Where do you kind of parse that out?
I mean, I think I think for that stretch, right? Give Dallas their credit, right? They, especially when you look at the way they ended the second quarter. I thought that was huge by Luka, and that's the kind of like, oh man, I believe in Luka. Like it's like, yeah, okay, that right
he
there,
he hit tough shots.
He had some tough shots, and not just tough though. I mean, those are timely. That's like that's basketball. Like that's not just a talented basketball player. That's knowing the situation. That's knowing like, okay, we're getting run out of the gym. I'm the best player. And if I make these shots, we can get it down to a manageable point by halftime. And here's how I'm going to go about doing that. Like that was great. Right. So, I mean, that's all good stuff from the Mavericks. It's just the problem is that doing that for 48 minutes or however many minutes like Luka plays. And I mean, like, I don't know. He didn't look super healthy to me in game one.
He did not.
Like, he looked a little, I mean, I think, honestly, rewatching it, I thought, like, literally the first bucket he got, I thought you could see him kind of wincing, like, as he's running back down the court. Like,
yeah.
That's a lot for Luka. And I think, you give the Mavericks their credit. You certainly, like, I mean, look, I know people want to get mad at the Celtics for blowing leads. People like to get mad at the Celtics for everything. I think it's the NBA. It's 2024. Leads in the first half, they go away. They just do. And like the thing about a 29-point lead is that it's tough to get that all back, right? Like like, even in the NBA, it's tough to get that whole thing back. So, the other team gets it down to 8. That's kind of the natural flow of a professional basketball game because, like you have to be completely on at all times to win a game. And when you're up 29, it's just hard to stay as on as you were when you were up by 4, So I think Dallas definitely took some of that back. The Celtics definitely gave some of it back. But then, to your point, then you see the reversion. Then you see Jaylen, attack downhill, just go right at the rim. Then you see the offense just get back to exactly what it needed to be. And as soon as that happens, as soon as the Celtics go, oh, shoot, it's 8. All right. Whew, take a breath. Like literally, that's what everybody said in their post game after that timeout. They said, let's, we all took a breath, and then they, righted the ship. And that, again, I'm not like saying anything about game 2 or the rest of the series, except to say that I think that's a bad sign for the Mavericks, that all the Celtics had to do was take a breath and get back to themselves. And then they were able to run it right back up again. That doesn't seem super what you want if you're Dallas.
The taking it back, Jaylen Brown in that stretch was just unbelievable. I cannot, like, I thought I had calmed down from after the game where I'm like, man, that Jaylen was the best player on the floor. And then I'm like, okay, let me just look at it again. I watched the end of that third quarter, the last 4 minutes of it, and I'm like, oh my God, Jaylen Brown is just, I mean, the best player on the floor in that stretch. Awesome. Like, unbelievable. Like, I think he was the best player in that game. Porzingis had that stretch where he was right there too. But I thought Jaylen, just the defense throughout almost the entire game, that 3-block stretch was out of this world.
Yeah.
And the control under which he played, like Jaylen came into this league as a frenetic kind of like just unchecked lightning. Like he just was to see him go from there to this level of control in an NBA Finals game is as impressive as I've seen anything on the basketball. It's just the progression to this point. Jaylen Brown, unbelievable. I can't say enough.
Yeah.
I'm putting this at 50-50. Like the Mavs
hang on. I want to give Jaylen Brown some compliments too. He dove on the floor on the first possession of the game.
He did.
And
after the jump ball,
that set the stage for how he was going to play the entire evening. Like that dude hit the deck constantly. It literally looked like we were looking at like you saw the influence of Marcus Smart. You saw the influence of I mean seriously, right? Like you saw the influence of Marcus Smart. You saw a guy who has been in the league now long enough and experienced enough postseason heartache and loss to decide I don't want to lose game 1. I do not want to lose game 2. I don't want to lose this series. I'm going to do everything I can. If that means throwing myself on the floor for the opening tip, I'm doing that. If that means diving on top of Luka to try to get this ball that's kind of loose, I'm doing that. Like he did absolutely, because it wasn't just the attacking. It wasn't just the offense. It wasn't just the, solid defense on Luka. It wasn't just the rim protection. It was the willingness to just kind of throw himself everywhere that like in the past, first few years of his career, I don't feel like we necessarily saw that as much. Yeah. And now it's like, he's going to do, whatever it takes to win. That's, winning basketball player last night and really this whole playoff run. It's been very impressive.
So I just don't know, like the Mavs will probably try to duplicate that, switching everything. And the Celtics, what they didn't do in that first 8 minutes of the third quarter, they didn't attack Luka the same way they did in basically every other part of the game.
Yep.
And once they got back to attacking Luka, it's just things changed. When I say Matt Moore phrased it as they picked on Luka on Twitter, and they kind of did. And this is when I talked a lot about defending with their offense, and that game was kind of what that looks like. There was a possession where I wrote it down. Jayson Tatum, it was 44-27 in the second quarter, I think. And Jayson Tatum is just, he's one-on-one on Luka. And you might say, and he gets it to Porzingis. Porzingis misses, and the Mavs go the other way. It's kind of a forgotten kind of play. And people might say, well, he just went ISO. Why are you bringing up an ISO? Because he went ISO against Luka, and Luka kind of defended it well. And I'm like, yes. I said this on a podcast the other day. If you attack Luka and he defends it well, that is perfect for me, because Luka worked really hard on that possession, and Tatum crossed over once, twice, 3 times, got the ball over to Porzingis. Luka saying, like slide, go this way, go back to. That's asking Luka to do a lot, especially on a right knee that clearly is still not like. I know a lot of Mavs fans were like, "Oh, but his knee was soup," against OKC. But like, it doesn't get better over the course of the playoffs without any real rest. Like this, he was laboring in that game. And the more you make him work, the more he's going to labor. He's going to get tired and that knee's going to start flaring up. And I don't want anybody to get hurt, but once you are hurt, I'm sorry. I can say this from the perspective of somebody who spends a lot of time being hurt on a basketball court. You make that guy work, man. You drive right on Luka every single time, and you make him push off with that right leg. You hit him with screens on his left side to see if he's going to plant that right leg and push through that screen, or if it's going to hurt, or if he's tired and he's going to die on that screen. You hit him with everything you got to test that right leg and watch it slowly deteriorate over the course of a game. And if they're going to put him out there because he's special and he can hit step back threes, great. But you're also going to crush them because you're playing 5-on-4 defensively. And if you throw in Kyrie 5-on-3 sometimes, and that's where this is all going to go. So I thought the attack, getting back to attacking Luka was a huge reason why the lead went from 8 back up to 25. I'll give you final thoughts on that. And I got like leftover things I didn't mention in yesterday's podcast, which I think were super, super important. Just quick 1 second. Anything to say about Luka and attacking Luka?
No, I mean, you covered it pretty well. I think I think the other thing, and I know we touched on this before, but I really don't think it can be stressed enough that by, like, I know Windhorse talked about it on a bunch of ESPN podcasts, but like the fact that he had, I believe it was 6 potential assists.
Yeah, that was a big stat.
I mean, that's huge, man. And like, it's a little funny to kind of see, you know, like, I mean, the Mavericks, kind of beat the Timberwolves by just kind of choosing one thing to take away from Ant, just being like, all right, it's going to make it really hard to get to the rim for you. We just want, you know, you might be able to get other stuff, but like, it's going to be really hard to get to the rim. And so the Celtics are kind of, doing like, okay, Luka, you can get some step back shots. You might even get some step back threes, like whatever it is, but like, you're not going to be able to get it to your teammates very easily. You're not going to be able to throw your lobs. You're not going to be able to throw your, like cute little pick and pop threes or whatever it is. Like you're not going to get to those. and that, I mean, that's going to be really hard. And I think, I think that there's going to be at some point in this series, a game where Luka just, he's got to kind of try to, can you score 45? Can you really go crazy and just score enough to boost your team over the finish line? And I just don't think, I don't think that's going to work out for them. I don't know if he's healthy enough to do that, but I also just kind of think like that's so much, that's such a heavy, weight to carry for your team. And then on the other end, the Celtics are just going to make up a lot of those points because they're going to go right at him. I don't know how many times I'm going to end one of my points by saying that I feel like the Mavericks are in a tough spot, but I feel like the Mavericks are in a tough spot with that one.
Luka Doncic in the playoffs on step back 3-pointers. What do you think his shooting percentage is there?
Ooh. I'll give him some benefit of the doubt. I'll go 36.
35.4.
Ooh, pretty good.
Which on step back 3-pointers, okay, that's fine.
No,
that's fine, but it's not going to kill you. It's not going to kill you.
You know what? I actually looked this up. It's not going to kill you because partial possessions where Luka guarded either Tatum or Jaylen, right? According to the NBA's matchup data, which, whatever. But 1.44 points per possession if Luka guarded Tatum or Jaylen on a possession.
Oh, that's big number.
Yeah,
that's a big number.
You're not going to make that up with 35% step back 3-point shooting.
No, you're not, and that's what they rely on. And his usage rate was like up around 38%, a little bit below 38%. That's you're asking Luka to do a lot, and so I just don't know. I literally don't know what the Mavs do other than maybe you start him off the ball some, and you say like. You try to run some other offense. Maybe you do something, but if that's the case, then that's a Boston win, because if you do anything, if Luka doesn't have the ball If their adjustment is, okay, we used Luka too much, then great. So they're going to take the ball out of Luka's hands. Fantastic. That's amazing. Maybe they go to Luka. To Kyrie. His usage rate was somewhere in the 27.2%. So that maybe you try to level that off and get him up to like in the low 30s, and you just start running more actions. Maybe you run him and Luka pick and rolls, just trying to see what you can get out of that. Maybe you stagger some. There are ways to go, but bottom line is the more the Celtics put on Luka, the harder it is. This went exactly the way we thought. And then in the fourth quarter, the Celtics started doubling Luka. They threw like a little bit, 3. Yeah. It's kind of interesting to me because like they spent most of the game. Maybe not. There were a couple where it was like not even a double. Like you show him a double, and then you get right back to your guy. So it's kind of like a hedge type of thing. But then they get a couple of blitzes. They got a steal out of one. Derek White got that steal in a breakaway. So I wonder if it's like get him tired. Then in the fourth quarter, when he's like, "Oh God, I gotta try to do this myself," it's like, okay, now you double, because now he's not looking to pass.
I think that's
so. I think that might be part of it. So, they played Luka perfectly. They just played Luka perfectly.
And to your point, right, about like you don't know like what's okay, like I don't know, like I just don't know. That's exactly what we're saying. Where it's like I don't know what the Mavericks do because everything that we predicted the Celtics would do is what happened. So now. Like we didn't see, like just like I don't know. I didn't see anything that we got wrong necessarily. So
just do it again and see.
Guess, like run it back.
Let's do it again.
Yeah,
they are going to change things up. They have to
for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know is it going to be more Tim Hardaway? I mean, I don't think that should be where they go. Is it going to be? They got no lobs. They got none of that stuff that punishes the defense. And that's such a huge part of their offense.
Kyrie will play better, right? Like I think
Kyrie
will play better. I think PJ Washington will probably play better. So, I think guys might individually play better, and that could make a difference. Maybe Derek Lively gets his sea legs a little bit.
Maybe
those things are possible.
I got to give a shout out. I didn't mention Sam Hauser, I don't think, in the podcast yesterday. But man, he played 16 minutes, was a plus 17. So the plus minus goes Drew Holiday at 20, Jayson Tatum at 19, and then Sam Hauser at 17. Mostly because I think he was on the floor for the Celtics, first quarter run. But look, he switched on to Luka and held his own.
He did.
And I think did he get credit for the steal? No, Sam Hauser did not get credit for that steal. It might have been Jaylen Brown who got credit for the steal. Yeah. But that was Sam Hauser's defensive play. And another play where Jaylen went to the floor and got the ball. So Hauser switched on to Luka Doncic and held his own for a few possessions, which is, by far amazing to me because like that's like
also a little bit of an indicator. Also a little bit of an indicator of Luka's knee health, perhaps. But
maybe. But he also switched on to Kyrie and had a couple of nice possessions against Kyrie. Kyrie also torched him, I think, once or twice. So like I'm not expecting that, but Hauser against Kyrie, it's like, oh boy. But there was one switch where he stayed in front of him. There's one where Kyrie went to the corner, and it was a strong contest in the corner. It was an off-balance shot that hit like the top of the backboard, I think.
Right?
Yeah. And it was like, so Hauser, you get 16 minutes out of Hauser at 0 plus minus, just even. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Plus 17 with him on the floor? Are you kidding me? Like that is a completely underrated element to that first quarter. And then he hits a couple of big 3-pointers to help extend this lead. That first quarter stretch where he was doing well defensively. He hit a couple of 3-pointers. Porzingis hits a couple of 3-pointers. Holiday hits a 3. Like White had a couple of 3-pointers in that stretch. Building that lead up to 29 was such quintessential Celtics basketball. It was absolutely perfect execution.
And that's exactly what I was going to say about Hauser too, right? Is like, I saw a few people be like, oh, well, like, you know, the Mavericks won the third quarter. And I think they won. I think
they won it by 1.
And then they won the fourth quarter too, I think by a little bit, which
in
like
garbage time by 2.
Very misleading when you look at like garbage time, but it's fine,
yeah,
right?
do not look at that.
Like,
you know what saving grace, Dallas.
Yeah. But like, and then I think the idea was, well, but the Celtics just got like otherworldly hot in the first quarter, and like, you know, like that's not repeatable. And it's like, no, it is. I promise it is, because like we've seen the Celtics go on these stretches often during the season with these like, you know, these 3-point barrages, and like Sam Hauser is integral to those a lot of the time, because he comes in for a couple possessions, he hits a couple of those threes, and all of a sudden the defense is just like, you have got to be kidding me. Like,
yeah,
because now you got to get out to Hauser, and you definitely can't leave him, because if he gets hot, I mean, he can make, how many did he have in that one game? 10? Like, you know,
10, yeah.
Like he can make as many as you give him if he's hot. And then if you're not helping off him, then that's yet another area where that's another lane. That's another collapse from another area that you're going to have to do, which then gets Derek White another one, which then gets Drew Holiday another one, which then gives, you know, Tatum or Jaylen a layup, which gets them going. And it's just like Hauser's presence. If he makes a couple of 3-pointers, I think it's probably a little bit understated how like tough it was for the Celtics that he was like 1 for 12 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like that, you know, like he helps quite a bit in those little micro stretches that just make a big difference overall.
For Mavericks fans who might be saying, oh, you had that one stretch of good shooting, that's kind of what the Celtics do. That's a hallmark of the Celtics. It's follow the game plan the whole way through. Just keep following the game plan. Don't worry. Like, aside from the third quarter, and I wasn't upset that they were shooting 3-pointers.
Yeah.
I was upset at the types of 3-pointers that they took. They 100%. Settled.
Yep.
And that's the shot you don't want to take. But if they were moving the defense and generating good catch and shoot 3-pointers, fine, whatever. And I think
at the beginning of the game. That's what happened at the beginning of the game. They were generating good threes that they just missed for the first, like,
that's right.
4 or 5 minutes.
And that 42 number, they took 42 3-point attempts. That was inflated by that one possession where they took like 4 or 5.
5, I think.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they had that one possession where they just couldn't hit. It was one after the other. That's where Luka fumbles it out of bounds off his own hands. And the Celtics got 2-3 more 3-point looks at it. And you're like, okay, maybe drive one of these, but whatever.
Yeah,
that inflated the number. But to your point, like, it is a process. So 42, it's actually fewer 3-pointers than I thought they were going to take. Keep going with those, because it's just like every other freaking game the Celtics have been in. It's play tough, up 5, down 3, up 6, whatever. Oh, boom, 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 boom. Derek White, 3 straight 3-pointers. Drew Holiday, 3-pointer. Jayson Tatum, boom, boom, couple of pull-up shots. And you're like, it was just a 5-point game. How are the Celtics up 22?
Yeah.
It just happens like that. And it can happen in the fourth quarter. It can happen in the first quarter. This is the Celtics offense. They keep generating those shots. They shot 38% from 3. That's not unreasonable. That's not like they just got hot. 38% from 3 is normal. That's what they shoot. And that's what I want them to shoot. Look at the margins. Look at the numbers. 84 field goal attempts for the Mavs, 82 for Boston, 19 free throw attempts apiece. Second chance points, Dallas 16-10. Points in the paint, Dallas 46-38. Fast break points, Celtics 10-6. So they did a good job limiting the transition. Points off turnovers, Celtics won that by 5. Still, 5 points, not a ton. It's not like none of these are big disparities. 16 3-pointers made to 7 3-pointers made for Dallas. That's it. That's the number. We said it before. It's going to be shooting, and that's what's going to determine this series. Keep shooting your threes. Boston took 42 3-pointers to 27 for Dallas. That's Joe Mazzulla is going to be looking at that being like, mwah, love it, because you just kept going. And the Celtics have good enough shooters that one of these guys is going to be like, I can hit a few of these. Hold on. Let me just get going here. And this just happened to be a balanced shooting night. 2 for Sam Hauser. There's an NBA Finals record. 7 guys with two or more 3-pointers. That's it right there. That's the game. And the Celtics, the Dallas Mavericks are
Peyton Pritchard. Peyton Pritchard did not hit any.
Peyton Pritchard 0 for 5.
Yeah.
Scrub. What a bum.
Not ready for the moment.
Yeah. This is it. That's it right there. This is pure Celtics basketball right there. Just keep generating those threes. Mostly good looks. Keep going. And Dallas is going to give those up. And now they might be like, okay, you know what? Screw it. We're going to sell out to take these 3-pointers away. And it's going to be maybe the points in the paint is going to be 66-46 Boston. Maybe that's how it goes in game 2. And they're going to try to see if they can try to level off the math game. That might be Dallas's best bet. Maybe they go Maxi Kleber instead of Gafford. Maybe Gafford kind of in which case, like going back to the podcast you mentioned with Zach Lowe and Windhorst, Zach Lowe mentioned specifically, how do you know when each team is desperate? It's when, for the Mavericks, it's when they put Kleber in there as their center. If they go in there and say, hey, Kleber's going to be our guy for this series and Gafford's going to be downplayed, then that's the guy you traded for. That's the guy that's been heralded. That's the guy that, like, if you minimize Gafford, who only played 14 minutes in this game, you minimize Gafford, he's you got Gafford and you got Washington. Like, those are your guys that the much heralded, is this the best trade deadline ever for a team? Like, if you can neutralize one of those guys, and now you got Kleber in there, that's huge. That'd be a huge win for the Celtics. If that's Dallas's adjustment, then I think the Celtics have another way of just, let's just attack this, and it'll be tough for Dallas.
Yep. Yeah, I was gonna go back and look at the Celtics points per possession when Kleber guarded, but I didn't have time to do that. But it looks like Horford, when Kleber guarded Horford, the team scored 10 points in minute 43. And when he guarded Jaylen for part of a possession, it was 15. So it's like, again, it's just holes everywhere, man. There's a lot of holes on this Mavericks defense for the Celtics.
Jaylen Brown, what was he? 2 of 2. The team scored 15 points in that's not great. That's not great. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do math anymore.
No, us trying to do math on the podcast is how you get a lot of dead air.
That screeching car crash that you just heard was both of our brains going, a 2, so 5 doesn't carry the 2. So X equals square root. Is there a square root involved? I can't do this anymore.
Pi,
3.1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good place to end the podcast. Thanks for hopping on, Tom.
Appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate you. Appreciate Tom. Appreciate you, the listener, the viewer, who's here with me on a daily basis, Monday through Friday. This is a bonus podcast, so this counts as a Saturday show. We'll probably, I don't know, maybe I'll do another one leading into Sunday's game 1. Who knows? We got all kinds of podcasts here to cover you. This is the finals, baby. This is the finals. The Celtics are 3 wins away from a championship. So Why wouldn't I step up my game? Why wouldn't we step up our games? So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast. Watch the show on YouTube. Get in the comment section. Let us know what you're thinking about all the stuff we've talked about. Hello, Dallas Mavericks fans. Come in there. Call me arrogant. Call me all that stuff. Or you could also call me right, because that's what we were about game one. What will happen in game two? Come back. We'll talk about that again ahead of game two. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing the podcast and telling everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.